So the GoPro Hero 7 Black. I knew I would pick one of these up at some point. I just wasn't sure when. So I ended up getting it spur of the moment when we decided to head to a theme park, to Lagoon.
Stamp. There you go.
So I decided that would be a good chance to test it out, like on some roller coasters. So I picked one up, unboxed it in the car. I used a battery that I had in the Hero 6, which I had with me, which was fully charged. So I was good to go with that. So I strapped it on with a chest mount, and I noticed right away on my first recording, which was just me approaching the park, that the image was bouncy, like it was up and down. Which would be expected even with stabilization, but as much as this little thing was hyped up, I expected. So I really wanted to try this out on a roller coaster. So I headed up, hit record. Afterwards, playing it back, again, I wasn't super impressed. I had recorded the same roller coaster the year before on a Hero 4. The Hero 4 has no stabilization. I remember thinking that it looked really good. When I went to compare that footage, it was obvious that there was an improvement. There was no shake, whereas with the Hero 4, there was a little bit of jitteriness here and there on the roller coaster. Going and actually doing a side-by-side comparison, you can tell that the Hero 6 is definitely more jerky when you move, comparing that stabilization.
You can see how the image is just kind of twitchy as it moves around and changes position with the Hero 6, whereas the Hero 7 is very, very smooth. So the difference is obvious when you compare the two side by side.
So with the Hero 7, it's not like a gimbal exactly.
When I compared the Hero 7 to a gimbal, to GoPro's Karma Grip with the Hero 4 to be exact, it's actually very hard to tell the difference unless you look directly at the horizon. You notice with the gimbal, the horizon is more stable and consistent. But the actual stability, you'll notice, is very similar. There's the same little bounce with a walk, but it's very hard to say one is more stable than the other. Very impressive results, in my opinion, especially since I'm just holding the Hero 7 free-handed. The horizon may not stay as consistent as with a gimbal, but it feels much more natural the way you can move the Hero 7 around free-handed and still get gimbal-like stability.
But the one thing that impressed me the most about this camera, the time warp feature. This was absolutely incredible. If you've ever tried to do hyperlapses where you take your DSLR on a tripod or even go handheld and just step, step, step and take a picture each time, you definitely appreciate what this camera can do when you're just walking and just holding it in your hand. Even if it were just that feature only, I think this camera is worth it. However, some drawbacks. Right off the bat, within just a little over an hour of filming, the camera had a glitch. It corrupted 3 files in a row. When I went back to try to preview those files, the camera completely froze up. I did the bit where I take out the battery, put it back in, restart the camera. I did that a few times and still the same effects every time. So there's a chance it was a problem with the card that I was using. I thought maybe it was the fact that the camera was trying to process a time warp when it was getting dark, because that's when the camera failed, but it also successfully completed some time warps in the dark. So I'm kind of stumped as to what for sure was causing that problem, but that was the only time that I noticed it. Trying it for a week plus, it hasn't done that since. Another glitch I noticed is when I tried to use it a few days after owning it, that the battery said 0% when I turned the camera on when it was a full battery. But the only problem was that it said 0%. It didn't actually affect the performance of the camera. as I continued to use it and film with it while that battery reading still showed 0%. Once I turned the camera off and turned it back on, it gave me a true reading. It was just that one time that it did it, so I just wanted to mention that. Another thing I'll mention, when I connected to the GoPro app, it said there was an update.
Notice how it just says null, where it would normally tell you what the update was about. And then when you click update, you go to a legal disclaimer that's completely blank. No information. At that point, you'd normally hit accept and continue, except in this case, nothing would happen.
And I have seen other people mentioning online a similar problem where the update wouldn't allow you to actually apply it to the camera.
But who would want to apply an update you have no information about?
So that's something that probably will be fixed with a future update or in time.
So I was finally able to apply this ambiguous update after a couple of weeks of not being able to. I'm just not sure what exactly it did other than resetting the camera back to its original factory settings. But hopefully it resolved whatever quirks were happening before. Time will tell. Hopefully.
So overall with this camera, if you're looking for a camera that you can just hold in your hand and look like it's on a tripod almost, or like it's on a gimbal, it really does do a great job. If they say this camera has the best image stabilization of any camera, I wouldn't disagree with them. I haven't seen anything better. But again, just the time warp feature to me makes it worth it. If you're into hyperlapses, very impressive what this camera can do. Due to those few glitches that I did see, I have thought about returning this camera, but I would definitely pick up another one. All in all, this camera does live up to the hype, in my opinion. I guess that's about it for my experience with the new GoPro Hero 7 Hyper Smooth Time Warp. Impressive stuff. I like it. Hopefully that's helpful. Peace.